Camera monitors are freaking boring. Until now. This is the new PortKeys LH7P, and it does something that basically no other camera monitor can do. Let's get into it. So I want to keep this video pretty short and not waste any of your time, but just a quick heads up, no dollar bills were slipped under the table here. The folks at PortKeys did send me the LH7P to test run, but they don't have any puppeteer strings attached. They have no say in what I say, and they don't get to see this video before you do. Now, I get a lot of monitor companies who reach out to me asking me to review their products, most of which get left on red. And that's because there's nothing special about them. Nowadays, most of them have some fun stuff like LUT input, false color, zebras. So as quickly as possible, I want to run through some of those fun, normal things that the LH7P has and which it doesn't, and then get to the one really awesome thing that sets this monitor apart and why I'm even making this video in the first place. At 7 inches, this monitor gives you the screen real estate that'd make a 5-incher blush. Now, although 5 inches is totally average, you may find yourself thinking that 7 is a little bit too large for your liking. Well, PortKeys does also offer the LH5P Mark II, but that's an additional $50, and while I haven't tested it, I spoke with Jason Morris, and he'd mentioned that he wasn't as impressed with that super secret function that we're going to talk about in a second, so I'm not sure if they've made updates to it since then, but yeah, worth noting. From a brightness standpoint, I've put the LH7P toe-to-toe with the much revered Atomos Ninja V. Both are rated at 1000 nits brightness, and I would honestly say that if anything, the PortKeys is actually maybe a tad bit brighter. The LH7P also comes with all the expected swanky features that you'd look for in a mid to upper tier monitor from a monitoring standpoint. You can upload custom LUTs, though you do need to load them through a USB port on the bottom, which is kind of like wearing a bow tie and pajamas. It's certainly strange to me that they opted for a USB over an SD card slot, because then you have to have a USB stick sticking out at the bottom. But it also does have a lot of the other features that you might expect. The all-important false color, focus peaking, Luma and RGB waveforms, zebras. And each of these has an adjustable customization that you can set. For example, for zebras, you can set a customizable IRE threshold. So if you want to set a middle threshold for 70 for skin tones, then you can actually set a high threshold for your highlights. And then you can even assign a different color for each. The LH7P also spoils us with a plethora of viewing adjustments. Vertical and horizontal flip, check. Anamorphic D-squeeze in just about every possible format imaginable, double check. But maybe my favorite is actually these crop guides. You're able to toss a crop guide on that sets it to any aspect ratio you like. So as someone who's constantly producing content for social media, I find it most useful to have a 9:16 guide enabled. This allows me to film horizontally, but with a vertical crop outline that helps me for content repurposing for those inevitable short form media gigs. The monitor itself is crafted from a decent quality plastic. It's good, but it's not really going to necessarily win any fight with any of its more rugged competitors like the Atomos. But it certainly might win more of that marathon because it is actually quite light. It's actually much lighter than an Atomos, and that's without having the SD card on here. SSD? SSD. You've also got mounts on the bottom, left, and right in case you want to mount the monitor vertically. On the bottom, you have an HDMI in and out, a DC power connection, and an audio jack, and then that ridiculous USB port that I had mentioned. In addition to the DC connection, it can also be powered by a standard NPF style battery plate. On the top, it also has 4 customizable function buttons, which are great for quickly accessing any of the different settings like peaking, false color, etc. However, actually customizing those buttons is like solving a clue to National Treasure.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
This leads me to my main gripe with this monitor, and that is that the touch menu is horribly unintuitive. If you don't have Nicolas Cage here to help you crack the code that is this menu system, you're going to be spending a lot of time checking the user manual to figure out what to actually do. It's a little bit like a digital maze, long presses, swipes, a ton of tapping, and a lot of head scratching. Once you have finally cracked the code though, you should be smooth sailing from there. Okay, so as cool as some of these features that we've been talking about are, there is one key thing about the LH7P that completely makes it stand apart, and that is subscribing to this channel. Wow, could you imagine if I was just doing this whole build up this whole time just to tell you to subscribe? That would be like a total douche move. No, I'm not gonna do that. Seriously, the actual true piece de resistance, the thing that's really nice about it is wireless control. If you have a Sony mirrorless camera or a Blackmagic, you can control all of your camera's shooting functions directly on the monitor itself. You see, the biggest issue is that most monitors are, let's face it, about as innovative as a bread sandwich. They just essentially supersize your flip screen, sprinkle on some fancy additions like waveform, and then remove all further functionality from said flippy screen. It's then a constant game of twister between monitor and your camera's flip screen, toggling back and forth to adjust your settings, or to even utilize Sony's acclaimed autofocus. Not with the LH7P though. Once you've navigated the labyrinth that is the menu system to actually get the Wi-Fi to hook up to your camera's Wi-Fi, every control at your fingertips right on the monitor. Once you have connected it, all you have to do is swipe down on the screen and you'll enter the Wi-Fi control mode. This allows you to adjust things such as aperture, shutter, ISO, white balance, and even hitting record all from the monitor. This is a great plus for those of us who like to keep a steady hand on your rig, avoiding that game of finger gymnastics to try to reach your camera buttons or the built-in screen. Or for those gimbal flyers out there, now there's no need to touch your precariously balanced camera while operating your gimbal. But the best part is, it also gives you focus control. Yes, just like the puny little native Sony screen, a simple tap on your subject and your camera racks focus to the desired subject. You can even swap between normal tap to focus or the tracking tap to focus, and you can adjust your focus area settings as well. Now, while I will admit this isn't perfect, the one thing that's missing is that you can't actually see the focus box on the larger screen, though it does appear on your camera screen. So you do know it is working. So like that is obviously a bit of a bummer, but hey, we can make do with something like focus peaking, even if it feels like we're just one small step short of total control. So what's this gonna cost you? Well, the LH7P is going to run you $349 for the black version or $399 for the white. Honestly, it's inexplicable to me why it costs an extra $50 for what I'd consider to be an inferior color. The only Sony cameras that are white are their entry-level vlogger cameras, and let me tell you that pairing this 7-inch beast with a vlog camera would be akin to dressing a Chihuahua in a Great Dane's collar. That was a good one. I like that one. That said, the $349 price point for this monitor is pretty competitive. There aren't really many 7-inch monitors that are even close to this feature-rich for that price point. And even something like a 5-inch Atomos monitor will run you $300 for a Shinobi or $400 for a Ninja V, and then I think it's even extra if you want to add in like the SSD and things. Sure, you don't get external recording on the PortKeys, but having that wireless control is honestly massively beneficial, and it really improves your shooting process. I am curious to know your thoughts on this monitor, however. Let me know in the comments, play thumb more with the like button, and hurry up and watch this video before the next Peter McKinnon starts audio playing. See you in the next one. Peace.